Hey guys, welcome back. Ricky here. Alright, so we are finally here. This is the best sharpening whetstone series, and I have a lot of stones here. I haven't counted them exactly, but I think I'm going to break this up into 3 different videos instead of having one long 1.5 to 2 hour video, because I can certainly sit here and talk about these stones for a good 2 hours. So the 3 categories that I want to break this series up will be the coarse sharpening whetstone, which is anything under 1,000 grit, so 500 grit up to, let's say, 900 grit in this case, or 800 grit in this case. And then your medium sharpening stone, which everything is in the 1,000 category. Now, normally I also throw the 800 grit whetstones into this medium category, but for the sake of this video, everything in the 1,000 grit range will be in this medium category. And then we have a fine sharpening whetstone. So anything over 1,000 goes into this pile over here. So we have basically 2,000 up to 3,000 grit. And so today we are going to talk about the coarse sharpening whetstone. I'm not the authority when it comes to sharpening whetstones. I'm certainly not the authority when it comes to sharpening in general. These are all of my subjective opinions on these stones. Lots of folks may have very different opinions on them, depending on what type of knife they're using and how they use your stones. So as long as you guys are okay with that, keep on watching. If you guys are new to sharpening, all these names will not make any sense. You won't know how to spell them, you won't know how to look for them. And so I'll leave a link in the video description to where you can find these stones for sale. And certainly I'll leave a link to my top picks. I might not leave a link to every single stone here, but my top picks, I will certainly leave a link to them. Okay, this one here is the Tercera Professional or Tercera 600. As a 600 grit whetstone, it's very fast. I like it a lot. I've been using this now for about a month and a half. It's a very good wearing whetstone. I don't find a lot of slur developing as I'm sharpening. The only thing that's kind of odd about this stone here relative to the other Tercera whetstones is that it is a soaking splash and go. The Tercera lineup are all advertised as splash and goes, but this particular stone here soaks up more water than any other Tercera or professional stone. That's not a problem. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's certainly something that you have to take note of, because if you use a stone right out of the box and you throw water in it, it'll absorb right into the stone. And unless you soak it for a good 5 to 6 minutes, water will keep absorbing into the stone, and you'll find yourself having to reapply water every 10 seconds, 20 seconds, and that can get frustrating. So just keep in mind, this stone here, even though it is advertised as a splash and go, you should probably soak it for a good 5 minutes before you use it. I find that that's just adequate time for this stone. Something I definitely recommend if you don't have a stone in the 500 to 800 grit range. So the next 2 stones I've got here are the Tercera Professional 800 and the Tercera 800. Essentially the same stone. The Tercera is the older version of the stone and still sold in Japan. The Professional is sold here in the US and advertised as the newer model. They are the same stones. There's no differences between them in terms of actual formula and sharpening formula. They feel exactly the same. I've used them both side by side and they don't feel any different. The only major difference is the Tercera has a plastic base and the stone itself is a few millimeters thicker or taller versus the Professional. And so in terms of which one to get, if you find the Professional for less money, get the Professional. If you find the Tercera for less money, get the Tercera. One of my favorite stones, though, definitely one of the fastest cutting whetstones I own, and a stone that I use in my personal arsenal to sharpen my personal knives. I use it all the time. So this stone here, in particular, I've had for about 3 years now. I've never flattened it, and it still is very flat and still giving me amazing results. Most of my knives I sharpen on this stone here can be sharpened in about 2 passes, or a burr developed on one side after 2 passes. And if you guys don't know what a pass is, it's basically me doing the push and pull method from tip to heel. So that's 1 pass. If you guys still need to know what that looks like, go to one of my sharpening tutorials. You'll see what I'm talking about. In terms of feedback, one of the most positive feedback feeling stones. I love this stone. This stone here, I've sharpened knives up to 66 Rockwell, and it handled it just fine. So for those who have really high-end knives and you're trying to figure out what stones to use, I can tell you that the Tercera and the Professional lineup in the Tercera brand can definitely handle knives up to 66 Rockwell. All right, the next stone here is another Tercera. This is the Tercera Diamond Stone. This is the Diamond 600. A few people have written me after I did my initial review of this stone. They said that it was a very slow cutting stone. I asked them what type of knives they were using, and they were telling me they were using Wustovs and Zwillings and some lower end Terceros. This diamond stone is not formulated for really soft knives. If you have a knife that is under 63 Rockwell, I wouldn't bother with this stone here. I've sharpened in 63, 64, 65, and 66 Rockwell, and they all felt great on the stone. I haven't tried any lower end knives on this stone yet because I don't really see the point in that. So I think most of the people who are using these stones and who are testing them on YouTube and other sharpening forums, they're using the wrong knives on these stones. To me, I think it's a very good cutting stone, very positive. The feedback feels a little dense because it is a very hard stone. So unless you're, sharpening high-end knives, I wouldn't bother with this stone here. But overall, I think it's a very good stone if you have the proper knife. Next, we have the Sharpening Glass 500. Now, the Sharpening Glass 500, to me, in the sub 800 grit category, is my favorite stone. It gives you an edge that is usable in everyday kitchens and is also fast cutting enough that you can put a very dull knife on it and sharpen it. I wouldn't do any repairs on this stone here or any of these stones in general because they tend to be too slow for any sort of repairs. For little nicks and minor dings on your knives, that's okay. But anything that would be considered a chip, I would not bother on any of these stones here. The only negative I have to say about this stone here is that it's only got 5 or 6 millimeters of sharpening space. I think that even if you were to flatten the stone after every use, it would probably still last you at least 3 to 4 years, if not longer. Overall, though, the sharpening experience is definitely worth it. In terms of price, it's about $10 less than the Tercera lineup, which comes out to be a very good value for your money. At the 500 grit mark, I don't think that any whetstones from King, Naniwa, even Suihiro makes anything that comes close in terms of raw performance. This here is the Suihiro Syrax 700. I really tried to love this stone because one of my favorite stones is the Syrax 1000, which we will talk about. But the 700 grit whetstone, very soft, not snappy at all, and I really like my stones to be snappy in the lower grit range. It's also relatively slow cutting for a 700 grit whetstone. For example, the reason why I say this is slow is because most of my knives on the Tercera or the Professional and even on the Sharpening Glass will develop a burr from 2 to 3 passes. On this stone here, most of my knives were developing burrs from the 4 to 6 pass mark. You're talking about a 50% reduction in speed relative to the other stones in the same grit range. Overall, I mean, it's a fine stone if you just wanted a Syrax, but in terms of raw performance and value per dollar, it's just not there. The next one we've got here is the Zwilling by Kramer, or Kramer by Zwilling 400 grit whetstone. This here is made by Naniwa. So the Tercera 400 or the Professional 400 to me is not a really good feeling stone. This stone, even though it is the 400, it feels a little bit different than the Tercera stones. Certainly a different color. The Tercera is a bright green whetstone. This is a dark charcoal. I think this actually feels better than the Tercera 400 or the Professional 400. It does soak up a little bit of water, and the Professionals don't soak up water at all. And so I think it is a different formula that they use for their glass stones. It can handle knives that are very dull. There was never any problems there. I'm pretty sure they're the same price as the Tercera or the Professional stones in the Naniwa lineup. For those who don't want to assemble their stones, piece by piece, Kramer also makes a kit for this. It's got the 400, 1000, and I believe the 5000 in that kit with a sharpening bridge. The Kramer kit is pretty nice. I can recommend it. But in terms of raw performance, it's a good stone. It stays flat for a very long time, so that's something that is also a positive on this stone. It has a very positive feel, very nice and snappy feel to it. A very handsome stone. I love the glass look. Just don't drop it; you will shatter your glass or your stone. The only problem I see with this stone here is the Sharpening Glass 500, which actually costs less. Now, when you see the two stones, they look the same. The Tercera the Zwilling or the Kramer stone is a little bit thicker, which is nice. But in terms of actual sharpening experience, I actually like the Sharpening Glass better. It has a more refined feel. Coming off these stones, the edges on both knives will feel the same. But it really comes down to overall sharpening experience. So the best pick I have for the coarse sharpening whetstone, the best pick is going to be going to the Tercera and the Professional 800. The number one selling feature of this stone here is the feedback. There is no stone here that offers the same feedback as the Tercera 800 or the Professional 800. The next best pick I have for those who want to spend a little bit less money and who want an excellent feeling stone is the Sharpening Glass 500. The number one selling feature of this stone here is its refinedness. It has a really nice formula. Not too hard, not too soft. It's a very slow wearing stone and just a very pleasurable stone to sharpen on. I've sharpened knives up to 63 on this whetstone. It handled it just fine. I'm pretty sure I can sharpen knives up to 65 and even 66 Rockwell, but I haven't had a chance to test that yet just because you can see the amount of stones that I'm testing. So between the two stones, the glass is a little bit more dense. It's a slightly slower wearing stone, which is expected of a ceramic based stone. If you want to flatten your stones before or after every sharpening, the Naniwa would probably be the way to go. If you want a stone that has a slightly more refined feeling, I would say the Sharpening Glass is the way to go. You're not going to be disappointed with either stones. So that's why these two stones are the best picks in the sub 1000 grit category. If you guys have any other questions, leave them in the comments and I will see if I can post a video to respond to some of your questions. And a lot of you guys have been asking about diamond stones. So I will be posting a video about diamond stones and plates very soon. So the Shapton fine plate versus the Atoma and some DMTs will be there as well. So yeah, so I'll be posting a video on that. So keep an eye out on the channel for that. Yeah, so that will be it. If you guys enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you loved it, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. I think I've got too many whetstones, and I think I need to dwindle down my collection and to my top picks. And so I should be doing a giveaway of whetstones pretty soon. So if you guys want a whetstone, make sure you guys are subscribed because there are going to be some sick whetstones that I'm going to be giving away. Or dope whetstones. Probably half of what you guys see here today may be going out the door at some point. All right, garbage truck in front of my door.